Viewpoint for Kids First. And today I had the pleasure of speaking with Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daley, and Jeremy Latcham, directors and producers of Dungeons & Dragons: Home Among Thieves. So I just have a couple questions for all of you guys.
Great.
So my first question is for Mr. Latcham. What drew you to wanting to bring Dungeons & Dragons to the big screen?
For me, it was the opportunity to work with these two guys again. We had made a movie called Spider-Man: Homecoming together, which, if you've seen, is a really fun Spider-Man movie. And they had written that movie, and we really hit it off. And they called me and said, "We're thinking about making a Dungeons and Dragons movie." And I thought that would be a lot of fun to make it with them because we have a lot of fun working together and we get along really well. And I think we complement each other well with our skills. And so it was a fun opportunity to work together again.
How did you balance staying true to the game's roots while making it accessible to a wider audience?
Well, it was really important to us that, people who don't know the game could enjoy the movie. And so we really just kind of went at it and said, like, okay, if there's anything here that would be too confusing, if you weren't a player, we're going to take that out. And we're going to make sure that we're just telling a story about some characters who go on an epic journey and have to deal with all kinds of difficult challenges. And it also happens to be in the world of D&D. So if you know that world, you'll appreciate all those monsters and places and spells that come from the game, but you don't have to know them.
So you really focus on making it wider, but still keeping some of the components and pulling new components as well.
Yeah, exactly.
My next question is for Mr. Daley. Tell us about casting the film and what qualities you were looking for in actors.
Well, I mean, the casting process was so exciting because we had these actors that we had in mind when we started the process, and being able to get many of them was a dream come true for us. We knew as we were putting this group together that we wanted them all to be unique in their own way with a very strong voice that set itself apart from the voices of all the other cast members. And that's kind of how we were able to fall into this cast where they are all so different from one another and yet complement each other and provide this very individual perspective on behalf of their character and their class and where their character comes from. So to be able to bring that all together was really exciting, and we couldn't have asked for a better group of people to do this film with.
So you wanted someone that was like super different, but also able to connect with other cast members.
That's exactly right.
My next question is for Mr. Goldstein. What was your inspiration for designing the creatures and the environments of the film?
Well, we had this, the production designers, the guy who builds all that stuff, his name is Ray Chan for this movie. And he was so talented, and he would look to all these real places on Earth, because obviously that's all we know is what's on Earth. But he would then use those and change them to create new environments that felt like alien places that you might find in the D&D world. So you'll see things like when they're in that Underdark place, it's those terracotta statues that look like a real thing that exists in China, but we changed it so that they're gnomes instead of, soldiers, things like that. So we tried to make it a world that felt both familiar, but also really foreign and new.
Well, my next question is for all of you guys. What were some of the challenges that you may have faced while filming?
I think, one of the more obvious challenges was filming during a pandemic. COVID made things definitely more complicated in terms of scheduling and getting people out in time to be able to rehearse, despite having to quarantine and all the testing, obviously, and the masks. But I think the other challenge was making sure that we were telling a story that resonated not only with players of the game, but people who had no prior knowledge of D&D. And it was something that we were always cognizant of in the back of our minds every day that we showed up to set. Every time that we were filming a scene, we wanted to make sure that it was kind of keeping the story going in a way that felt cohesive, and B, that it was never too alienating to people who aren't familiar with D&D. I also think it was a challenge to keep everyone from laughing during the takes because the movie's really funny
and everybody on the crew kept laughing. And John and Jonathan were like, guys, like, you're ruining the takes. Like, you got to stop laughing at everything. But I think the actors were all so funny that it just kept happening a lot. And so that was like a real frustration on my part, because I got to get everyone to stop laughing so we can use the takes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your collaboration with the directors and the cast, and what was your favorite thing about making this?
My collaboration with the guys was really close. We worked really closely together for 3 years on the movie, and so this Zoom screen with their two faces and mine was something that I looked at a lot over the course of the last 3 years, and we had a really fun time making it. And we had a really great collaboration with the cast. I think everybody showed up really excited about the movie. The screenplay was really good. And so everyone knew what they were doing and knew what their parts were. And I think that all the actors showed up excited to kind of jump into the world. And so overall, it was a really, really fun process, a really fun experience making the movie.
My next question is for Mr. Goldstein. You have such a talented and diverse cast. What was your secret for helping them bring their characters to life?
Well, it began with the writing of the script. We wanted to make sure that the characters that John and I created were relatable and sympathetic and interesting and weird and not perfect. That was really what it was about, because we didn't want them to be superheroes. We wanted them to be people like, who were faced with really big challenges, and so that you're rooting for them on their adventure. So that was really, and then the cast, we tried to cast people who were, like you said, different from one another. So it felt like a real Dungeons and Dragons adventuring party where different people come together from different walks of life. And so that was really the goal there.
How did you approach balancing the humor and the action in this film?
The two kind of went hand in hand very often. Because D&D always has one foot in the contemporary, because it is an ever-changing, ever-evolving game, depending on who you're playing it with. It allowed for this sense of whimsy and comedy and humor to come naturally from the circumstances that our characters were facing. So unlike in other films where the action is serious and the characters take themselves very seriously, our characters can very honestly comment on whatever's happening to them. So I think it served almost as this kind of release valve for the sort of pressure that you build up with whatever conflicts our characters are facing. Then you get to have Edgin or whoever our character is tell a joke and say something in the context of how their character would actually react to it that allows for catharsis for our audience.
Well, thank you guys so much for talking with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Hanadie reporting for Kids First. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channels to stay informed about upcoming films. Thank you. Bye.